Hey there, welcome back. It is Cindy again. We are working in QuickBooks Desktop for version 2022. This is video 3 of module 3. I want to talk to you a little bit in this video about how to work with the users option in QuickBooks. When you open QuickBooks, if you'd like to have that user type in a username and password, you would need to set up those users in order to be able to do that. This is not something you have to do in QuickBooks, but it is very highly recommended. Setting up users will allow you to set up different permissions for different people who use QuickBooks. You can actually set it up so they can access certain areas and maybe not access others. Let's go ahead and flip over to QuickBooks and I'll show you how to set up those users. You do not have to set up users in QuickBooks, but it's very highly suggested. When you set up users, that means that when you double click to open your company file each time, it will ask whoever's using it to put in their username and their password in order to allow them access to your company file. You do have to be the administrator in order to actually work with the users. Make sure that administrator is logged in. What you'll want to do is go to the menu and click on Company, and then you'll see an option that says Set up Users and Passwords, and in the sub-menu, choose Set up Users. If you did have a password set for the administrator, maybe you set it up when you set up your company file through the Easy Step Wizard, it would ask you to go ahead and log in, and then you just click OK, and now you'll see the user list. Here you can see the admin is logged in. You can add up to 5 users in QuickBooks. Each one will have a different login. As the administrator, you'll want to be the one to set up these users so that you can write down their username and password. And if that user leaves the company, go ahead and delete them over here. Or if you want to edit the user that was there previously, you could do that. But make sure you have the current user set up. Let's say that we've hired a new employee, and that employee is going to come in a couple days a week and just pay the bills. And we just want to give them access to those areas. I'm going to click on Add User, and we'll put in the user's name. Let's say the name is Carol, and we'll set up a password for Carol. You'll want to make sure you type it in twice, and then you'll want to click Next. The first thing QuickBooks asks is, what do you want this user to have access to? Notice you can give Carol access to all areas of QuickBooks, selected areas, which we're going to choose, and I also want to point out this last option for the external accountant. If you have an accountant that you want to have access to your QuickBooks file, you can give them their own username and password. They won't have access to what we call sensitive customer data, credit card numbers, things like that. I'm going to choose selected areas and click Next. The first area it asks about is sales and accounts receivable. Now this has to do with invoicing our customers. I'm going to leave that on No Access and click Next. This next question asks about purchases and accounts payable. This is what I hired Carol to do. I'm going to give her full access. Notice I could give her selected access where she can only do these 3 items that you see here, but I'll go ahead and give her full access to accounts payable. The next option is checking and credit cards. I don't want her to go in and make deposits and enter credit card charges, things like that, so I'll just say no access. This screen asks about inventory. I'm not going to give her access to inventory. Not going to give her access to time tracking or payroll. This option asks about sensitive accounting activities. Those are things like, do you want Carol to be able to make journal entries in QuickBooks? Do you want her to have access to online banking functions? Again, I'm going to say no. And sensitive financial reporting, those are the reports that go with that previous screen. Now it asks me, do I want Carol to have the option to change or delete transactions? I usually leave this where it defaults. The first option asks, do I want Carol to have the ability to change or delete transactions in the areas she has access to? Of course. What if she enters a bill twice and needs to delete one of them? This option says, do you want Carol to be able to change or delete transactions recorded before the closing date? If you remember in the preferences, there was an option to close the books if you use that function, you may not want Carol to go in and make changes in those closed periods. This last option just gives me a summary of all of the options I chose. I'm going to hit finish, and now you're going to see that our new user Carol has appeared on this list. If I ever want to edit her, I can come over to edit or delete her. I'm going to close this window. I want to show you how this option actually works. Each time you are finished using QuickBooks, you want to go ahead and log out. You want to click on File and then go down to where it says Close Company and log off. If you do not do this, you're still logged in, and the next person that comes in will be logged in as you. Sometimes QuickBooks will ask you if you want to back up your data. We'll talk about that a little bit later. I'll just say no here. And that's actually going to take me back to this screen that you're going to be very familiar with, where you're actually able to open an existing file. Our new user is coming in to work. The new user is going to double click on the company file, ABC Plumbing in this case, and it's going to bring up a window where Carol has to put in her name and her password. Notice it has the last username that was logged in. I'm going to put in Carol, and I'm going to go down and put in her password. Now Carol has access to this company file. You might notice that the icon bar is back on the left-hand side again. Any preferences that are changed are per user. Now I want to show you how QuickBooks will allow Carol to access areas she should be in and not allow her into other areas. We gave Carol permission to work with bills, so she will definitely be able to enter bills like this. Okay, let me close that. I did not give her access to work with accounts receivable. That's this area down here. I'm going to click on Create Invoices, and notice it gives me a warning and says that you need sales and accounts receivable permission to perform this action. I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and that's how the users work in QuickBooks. Let me go ahead and log off here. I'm going to close company log off, and I'll log back in as the admin again. And go ahead and put in the admin's password I had set up. See how it says Carol? I'm going to put in admin, and I'll put in that password again. And go ahead and click OK. And now I will be back in QuickBooks, and I'll be able to access everything because I am the admin. That's how you're going to set up users in QuickBooks. Remember, you have to be logged in as the administrator in order to make any changes to the users. Let's go ahead now and wrap up this video. We're still in Module 3. I want to go down now to video number 4. We're going to talk about working with the chart of accounts in the next few videos. Video number 4 is called What is the Chart of Accounts?